here in the Milwaukee area. So we're going to get an introduction of her and hear about her business. But first, I always like to remind everyone that the Money Talk Show is sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan Association. So thank you so much to Columbia Savings and Loan Association for sponsoring this show each week. And on that note, I always like to remind the audience to please give us a call at Columbia Savings and Loan Association if you're interested in applying for a home mortgage. Call us up and make an appointment to meet with one of our loan officers. The phone number there is 414-374-0486. That is 414-374-0486. The other thing that you can do is stop by the bank at 2020 West Fond du Lac Avenue. That is 2020 West Fond du Lac Avenue, and open a savings account with Columbia. It only requires a $50 deposit to start the savings account. But of course, if you've got more money than that, we'll take it, right? So, yep, no, so please don't forget about our only Black owned bank in the state of Wisconsin. And we do need the support of our customer base. So thank you to the customer base that does support this bank, that allows the bank to support this show each and every week. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce Latanza Parnell. Latanza, please say hello to the audience.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Coral. Thank you. I appreciate you for inviting me on. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. Sorry. Okay.
Yep, just pull the mic a little bit closer.
Sure.
It's fine.
All right.
Yeah, no. So thank you for agreeing to come, because I know you are a very busy person, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I have an ongoing series, Latanza, where I invite entrepreneurs and business leaders onto the show. So you're a perfect fit for someone to come on board and to talk to us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about what you do. So I'll prompt you with some questions, but don't be shy. We want to hear all about you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
are you from Milwaukee?
So I was born in Gary, Indiana,
Okay.
and I more or less was there until I was 7 years old, and then I came to Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll still take that. We're going to claim you as being homegrown, because if you came here at only age 7, you were still, quite a youngster. There's so
Absolutely.
many other people that I invite on the show, and not all, but a lot of them are homegrown talent, is what I like to call it. So we may not have birthed you here in Milwaukee, but you grew in Milwaukee from age 7.
I agree. 30
Mhm.
plus years. So not to
Okay.
tell my age, but
Oh.
I've been here for quite a bit of time.
You tried to tell me your age before we came on the air, and I think I'm going to have to see some ID before you leave here, because I refuse to believe it. And they say that the black does not crack, but you are on a whole other level with that.
I'll take
So,
it. Thank you.
no, thank you for coming, and thank you for giving of your time. So you went to high school in Milwaukee then?
I did. I went to several high schools. I would say I started off at Riverside, and I actually graduated from Juneau School of Business.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So I'm not as familiar with Juneau High School, but Juneau High School had a school of business.
Well, so that was like their add-on. So they
Okay.
had business classes in which they offered within their curriculum, and I was able to take advantage and get some exposure. I even had an internship at Harley Davidson, being that I attended and I got great grades and things like that. And
Right.
I
Wow.
took advantage.
So while you were in high school, you did all of that.
I did.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot. That seems unusual to me. So that says that there's you're an exceptional person. That's what that tells me.
Thank you. I'll take it. I'll
Okay.
take it.
So after you graduated from Juneau, where did you go after that?
So when I graduated from Juneau, I actually went to UWM. So
Okay.
I graduated there with my bachelor's. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Yeah. So what was your bachelor's degree in at UWM?
Accounting and finance. I was a double major.
Okay, accounting and finance.
Yeah.
All right. So UWM, so University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So was there any other additional training or education that you had after that? A double major in accounting and finance sounds like more than enough, but was there anything that I'm missing?
That was pretty much majority of it. I worked while I was in college, so that took up a lot of my time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like I guess you would say, the typical age college student. I took some time off between high school and college because the finances just wasn't there.
Sure.
And
No, that makes sense.
yeah, and that kind of more or less increased my curiosity and my spark and wanted to get into business and wanted to learn more about money management and whatnot because of the humble beginnings I came from.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, I understand that. And you know what? Everything is different for the individual, and people have to chart their own course based on what's best for them. And a lot of times when people start college, I mean, they're just babies still,
Yeah.
17, maybe 18 years old, and you don't know what you don't know. You just got to do something. So
I
you
agree.
go to college. But it sounds like in your case, if you went back to college a little bit later, to make sure the finances were aligned for you to be able to do that, I'll bet you then you took it very seriously,
Yes.
and you were, a good student, and you studied hard, and you appreciated the value of that education even more so. I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Not to mention the loans I had to take out to support it. So I can't, all seriousness was on the table.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But that's good though, because again, sometimes, and I don't want to, I'm not discouraging
Yeah.
any 17 or 18-year-olds from going to college, because I went at that, young age. It's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when people go at that young age and they don't really realize what they're getting themselves
Right.
into, and they can take on a ton of debt and then get discouraged and drop out. Well, you still owe the money.
Yeah.
That's
Not
one
going
thing people
anywhere.
don't understand, that, so it's better to know that you've got a plan in mind if you are going to take on debt, to have a plan in mind of how you're going to position yourself to earn.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
make sure you go for something that's going to have that projective um, growth rate, that employment, because you not only want to be able to graduate and be successful, you want to have those opportunities awaiting you. Otherwise, it seems like it's all for nothing.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. So you graduated with your double major, your degrees in accounting and finance. And what was the next step for you in the process after that?
So I was working at Potawatomi Bingo Casino. I worked
Okay.
there for 10 years. So that got me through college as well. And once I graduated, I went and worked in a couple private companies and got some exposure, some experience there. And then learned, I want to do something more impactful. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sitting here behind this computer, no real people interaction. And so that more or less led me to become self-employed, because it's more people, it's more, empowering others, helping them to understand their unique circumstances, and so on and so forth.
Okay. So when you said that you worked for other private companies before starting your own, but you were working in the accounting field,
Yes.
so you were doing that type of work, so accounting services.
Yes, I was. And it becomes just so repetitive when you're working for like one organization. I'm not saying anything is wrong with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like I was missing out on something because I'm just sitting there typing away, and yeah, the social
Mm-hmm.
interaction just wasn't there. And that's something that I thrive on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's different. I know people make lawyer jokes, so I'm gonna try to make an accountant joke and hopefully not be offensive, but the stereotypical accountant, and we just call them bean counters, right?
Mm-hmm,
Like
yeah.
with no personality. They don't want to interact with people. They want to sit in a room and just count numbers and
Mm-hmm.
count the beans, basically. But you sound like you're different from that. You're not just a bean counter. You want to interact.
Right. I want a little bit of both. It's good to have routine, but at the same time, I don't want to be bored out of my mind. So having, the people interaction, it gives me balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's good. That makes sense. So it was a bold step then to decide that you were going to step out on your own.
Yes, it was. So ultimately, what drove me into just doing it full force on my own, I was working for a private company in the construction space.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a little bit before the pandemic. And so I worked there for like 4 years. Long story short, me being, in the financials and accounting department and seeing things, I kind of saw the ship going down, but I enjoyed working there because it was different being that it was in the construction space. There was different projects we took on. So that made it exciting because now, I might be looking at what's going on for like one hurricane, because it was reconstruction, I should say.
Okay.
So it was more of a mitigation. We're fixing things, and they would more or less send out their people to different parts of the United States, and I'll just be keeping track and managing the finances based on the projects. So
Okay.
again, projects begin, projects end. So that makes it, it's the beginning, it's the end point.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess I hadn't really thought about that just in terms of in the accounting field. So when you're saying that you could see the ship going down, it was it because that particular types of services that was dispersed around the country that wasn't going to be needed anymore as the country came out of the pandemic, or am I misunderstanding?
So it was a little bit prior to the pandemic when we had a couple natural disasters. I think it was Hurricane Sandy, and it
Mhm.
was a couple other things that just hit back to back. So without those, disasters continuously reoccurring, God forbid we don't want them to
Right,
reoccur,
right.
there was less work for us to do. So when
Okay.
the pandemic hit, that was like the ultimately, that was the nail in the coffin. It was over, everyone was closed in, the
Right.
business was already on its last leg, and that just ended it all.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So I understand. I understand. So yeah, so the average person would have said, "Well, let me shop my resume out here and go find another job." But
Uh-huh.
instead you said, "Hmm, let me start Parnell Accounting Solutions."
Yes.
So what made you make that choose that path rather than just going for another position somewhere?
So I was sitting at home getting unemployment. So all I had was time to sit and think, okay, what's next? And then I decided, it's like I want to take a chance on me. I'm, letting everybody else decide for my destiny. We know a lot of these employers are at will. They're great to have, the opportunities are great, but there's no real security, no real job security. So if
Mhm.
there's nothing out there that's going to secure me, why not try for myself? Because it's always going to be, another accounting role that I can take on working for someone else. So
Right.
why not see what I can do on my own?
Right. And I see you nodding, Jermaine. Did you want to add something to that? I see
Yeah,
you.
I mean that mindset is a great mindset to have because that's like me. I bet on myself. With my music career and with the music that I do, just being a music producer. Um, I could have signed under a whole production team, but I bet on myself. Like, nah, I'm not gonna give you a certain percentage of something I know how to do myself than when I could just do it and I can build my own entity. So just hearing her say that, that's like, okay, that's a great mindset to have because at the end of the day, you want to control how you live and
Absolutely.
not put it in anybody else's hands. So I
Right.
completely agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Awesome.
I saw you nodding. I knew you had something.
She was preaching. I almost gave her an offering. And she was preaching that good word. Give her an offering. Amen. God bless
Yeah,
you.
yeah. No, she's telling the truth, and that's been my mindset too. Because I did the same thing in starting, a law firm, and even working with Columbia, to rebuild and prosper this bank. Ernie Jones is the president, CEO, and board chair of Columbia, and I could stand up and preach and say what a pleasure it is to work with him, and to have him as the leader of the team. But he's betting on himself with what he knows in order to help navigate that, and I'm betting on that and myself to help him also do it.
Mm.
And not to get too far ahead, but in another week or so, we're going to bring in the newest addition to our team at Columbia, Mr. Gulbaz Gill, who is the executive director of lending and finance, who joined us a few short weeks ago. But you might have met him previously, Jermaine, because he did come on the show one time and he did a segment with me.
Okay.
But that's been a few months ago now.
Okay.
But we've successfully recruited him to join the
Nice.
team. So yep. So
Nice.
now we are a mighty threefold court doing this
Nice.
thing.
Nice.
So yep. So I love to say that, but not to digress. We'll come back with that in another week or so. But yeah. So back to you. So then here you are, and you make this bold decision, a brave one and a wise one, in my opinion,
Thank you.
to go and start your own business. What was the first thing you did? Like, how did you get going with that?
First, I relied on word of mouth. So I more or less just took on whoever came to me and told me they had accounting needs, bookkeeping needs, just overall money management needs.
Mm-hmm. So was it to your advantage then, the fact that you, even though I know you came to Milwaukee when you were 7, but essentially grew up here, and so people you knew people, right? Because
Yes.
you were homegrown.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
That helped get things rolling.
It totally did.
Mhm.
I created a social media space. You know, I created an account on LinkedIn, and I just started shooting things out there and just posting about every and anything that I can think of at the time.
Yeah, no, so that's good. And it's funny because, like, when people ask me, well, how did you start your law firm? And I said, well, I grabbed a legal pad and a pen, and I was literally at my kitchen table, boom, I'm in business.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing about being in the service industry, or a service industry, that it's really about the services you provide. So like, it's not like having a clothing store where I need to order inventory
Right.
and make sure I've got something to sell, or where I'm creating a product other than, well, my work product is a product, but I'm not assembling equipment or anything like that needs
Totally.
to be sold. But it's really a matter of, all right, here's the pen, here's the pad. Who's getting ready to call?
Yes.
Who's going to call me that I need to provide services for? Because presto, I am now in business.
Right.
Yeah. So I remember consulting with a business attorney to get, to talk about structure and setting things up. Ultimately, I ended up creating my own LLC, but I remember having that consultation. Did you do something like that? Or with your accounting and finance background, you probably just said, listen, this is what I need to do, and, created your entity and went from there.
Yes, I can relate totally to everything you said about, just getting the notebook out and just get it going. But I do like introductory calls and whatnot to speak with people to understand, what do they need? Because at the end of the day, it's about what they need and how I can more or less deliver.
Right.
So based on their needs, I let them know, well, this is what I'm able to provide.
Okay.
And we kind of go from there.
Okay. So what types of services, just in general, does your company provide? Because I'd like for you to just give an overview.
Sure.
And when we come back from the break, we'll talk a little more detail about what those services mean, like who is a target customer for you and that sort of thing. Okay. But right now, just give us an overview of the types of services that your company provides.
Sure. So I provide bookkeeping first and foremost, because if we don't have the historical transactions, there's nothing much we can talk about. We need actual data. And we need accurate data. So at a minimum, I provide bookkeeping, and then I do accounting, which is more or less analyzing, okay, what does this say? What is the financial health of your business?
Okay. So give your contact information before we go to break.
Sure,
I want people to know how to contact you, and then we'll talk a little bit more specifics about what you do when we come back.
Absolutely. So my website is Parnell Accounting Solutions LLC.com. If you log on there, there's a introductory scheduling link. So we can start there. Telephone number 262-264-8944.
Okay, and give the website one more time.
Parnell Accounting Solutions LLC.com.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We have to take a break now, but when we come back, we'll hear more from Latanza Parnell, the owner of Parnell Accounting Solutions. Thank you.
Milwaukee Black.
Just joined. I do have Latanza Parnell in the studio with me this morning. She is a super smart accountant with a double degree in accounting and finance. She owns her own accounting firm, Parnell Accounting Solutions, and she is here with me this morning. Say hello to everyone again, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Um, the information that Latanza and I are sharing this morning is just that. It's informational. This is not professional advice. If you do have a accounting issue, please seek out a qualified accountant for a consultation to address your own particulars. What we're doing today is just merely informational, and it doesn't constitute professional advice. All right. But with that being said, I do want to give out the phone number here at 414-444-5250. That is 414-444-5250 if you'd like to call in with any questions for us about today's show. Okay, Latanza, before the break, I asked you to give out the contact information for your accounting firm. Would you please give that one more time?
Sure. So my website is Parnell Accounting Solutions LLC.com. You can look on there. There's a scheduling link for an introductory call. You can also contact me by phone. I'm at 262-264-8944.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
So, I would like to ask you to tell the audience, what does an accountant do?
Sure. Um, so an accountant is known as one of the most trusted advisors. So outside of having legal professional or a legal professional by your side, you want to have an accountant. And what we do from a business perspective is we help you to understand and have awareness of your financial health for your entity.
That's so well put.
Thank you.
No, that's helpful, and that's exactly what people need to understand. So, with that in mind, who would make a good customer for someone like you?
Someone who's proactive. So I like to get in front of things. I don't like to retrace our steps. That's tough. If so many moving parts in our lives, having to go back and reinvent the wheel is just an extra stressor that we can avoid by being proactive.
Right. So the ideal situation would be, let's say, for instance, if a person has a business, if they come to you at the start or at least early on,
Yes.
before there's years and years and years of things to try to decipher and unravel and figure out.
Yes.
Okay. So, um, is it fair to say then, well, let me just ask you,
Sure.
do you service individual customers, or do you service business customers?
I service I service both, but I specialize in business
Okay.
because it's an ongoing thing and it just needs that oversight.
Right, right. So tell us now, so if a brand new business customer goes to your website and they sign in to schedule a consultation with you, give us the steps of what happens after that.
Sure. So when you schedule with me for an introductory call, I have 10 questions that I ask just to give me some foundational information. The question that I want to know most is, what's your ideal situation or your ideal relationship with your accountant? Because I want to make sure I'm able to provide that, because flexibility is important, but at the same time, I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Okay. So what other, if you don't mind asking, just maybe some of the other 10, some of, not the whole 10,
Sure.
because they got to come to you to get that insight. But I'm just curious of what other types of things that you might ask.
So I asked, what are their goals, their short term and long term goals? We want to know if you're looking to buy a home in the future, looking to expand, um, hire on new employees, things of that nature. I also asked, what are the challenges? What challenges are you facing?
Okay. So you said something very interesting there, and then I may segue us, and if so, we can come back to some of the bullet points that I know that you would like to hit. But you asked people if they're going to be buying a home anytime soon.
Yes.
So that's an interesting question. Why do you ask that?
I asked that for a number of reasons. The main reason being, if you want me to prepare your tax return, I need to know if you're looking to buy a home, because that's going to affect our reporting. That's going to affect how much we need to disclose and how much of a strategy we need. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to have so many deductions from a business to the point where we're not able to show income, which is going to more or less affect you when you go to apply for a home loan.
Sure. So I know in my experience that I've seen, especially small business owners that want to deduct, everything,
Yeah.
and then that's all well and good until it looks like you only made $6,000 last year,
Yes.
and then you you come you come before a lender and you say, "Oh, I'm qualified. I can pay for this home. I can, handle this," but they're looking at your tax return and it does not reflect that.
Right, right. And usually they ask for 2 years worth. So you
Right.
really want to get on the ball when it comes to what you want to file and show within that tax return filing.
So it makes sense then for a person to plan ahead, to think
Yes,
ahead. So let's say if I think I might want to buy a home within the next 2 or 3 years, I better get with you now and make
yes,
sure I've got my I's dotted and my T's crossed.
yes. That would
Yeah.
totally be ideal.
Okay. So it looks like we do have a caller that's on hold. Caller, please go ahead.
And there she is. Good morning. I missed you. I missed you for almost 14 days. You can't.
Hello there, Mr. Tyrone. How
Yes,
are you
ma'am. You
today?
can't. You can't be leaving me like that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm so, there's so much work that's going on
you,
that
you,
I
you, you,
always love to get here as
you,
best I can every week, but
I know you
sometimes I
do.
have to have a covering. So,
Sometimes you need a little vacation. I understand that.
oh no,
So,
there's been no vacation. Let's be clear on that one. Yeah, that day will come too though, but it's
sometimes you
not
just
in the
need.
foreseeable future
Yeah, you
anyway.
just need a little time for yourself. But yeah, just always glad to hear your voice. The sunshine is pretty, and the sunshine reminds me of your sweet voice and your pretty smile that I know you share with us every day.
I
Uh,
appreciate you, Tyrone.
yes.
So, do you have anything for Miss
Well, I
Latanza
do, and I
Parnell
kind of
this
shared it with
morning?
Jermaine, and it's about the gifts and talents that God gives. It sounds like she's wonderful in what she's doing there,
Oh,
and
Thank
she
you
you.
is.
you
I
as
can
well
tell
with
you
your
that.
professions and all that. And I appreciate you both doing the wonderful things that you've done and the professional realm and all that. And you have to just do the best you can to just be and make the most of the gifts and talents that God has given you. And basically, I just
Absolutely.
wanted to ask her, what, and I will, Tyrone W. speaking, young lady, just in case you didn't know.
Hi.
Good morning. What would you say to, and I've said it before, you can't spend it all and you ain't going to take it with you. Just ask the boy in the Cadillac there that's buried in the Cadillac there that wanted to take his car with him.
Hmm.
He's probably still sitting there holding the steering wheel, you know, drifting away in dust. But he's still there. He ain't went nowhere yet. But anyway, what do you tell Elon Musk that's got all the money? You can't spend it all, man. All these people with all this money, you're not
That's
taking it
right.
with you, and you ain't gonna be able to spend it all. I mean, what's a couple pieces of advice you can give to people that all this money, and you ain't taking it with you? I'm not trying to be funny, but it's greed got people thinking all kind of different kind of ways, man. You can't take it with you and you ain't spending it all. What you doing with all this money? Elon Musk and some of these other people, even some of these big football players like Aaron Rodgers and some of these other big time football players. What you doing with all this money? You're not going to take it with you. And I'll listen to you over here. Have a great day. Have a great week.
Okay, thanks, Tyrone. So we appreciate the question. And before I have 2 cents on that, and I'll let Latanza speak too. But I do want to again just remind everyone that this information today is just that, it's informational. Because Tyrone, you phrased your question, what advice would you give? So because we have professional credentials, we have to be careful about giving advice over the air. So it's not advice that we're giving, but it's just some educational thoughts. So what I would say to Elon Musk and the sports people that you mentioned, that shows how bad I am with sports, because I know those are names that I was supposed to know and remember, but I blanked on that fast. Tell them to contact the Ples Law Firm and do an estate plan, right?
Yes.
With my
Yes. Yes.
estate planning professionals, and then we can figure it from that standpoint in terms of what best to do with all of that money. So that would be my 2 cents on that. So Latanza, is there something that you would like to add?
Totally what you stated. Estate planning is huge. Think about what your ultimate goal is: generational wealth. Do you have any children? How do you want that to be as far as when you pass away? What do you want them to have? What does that look like? And just start thinking from those things.
Right, right. So no, that all makes sense to me. Um, so we were talking a little bit more because it was a good comment, and thank you, Tyrone. We appreciate your comment as well. It's always good thinking. You know how to call and spark a good discussion on the show, so we appreciate that. Um, okay, so it looks like there is another caller that's holding. So caller, please go ahead, caller, with your question.
Yes. Good morning. Excuse me. Good afternoon.
Oh no, it's still good morning here in Central Time.
This where I'm at, right?
Yeah, where are you?
Attorney Copaz, I just want to say thank you so very much for being there on the studio this afternoon. Excuse me, I go again. Good morning, and good
Good
morning to your
morning.
guests. Good morning to your guests.
Thank you. Good
My
morning.
question. Good morning. My question is, uh, Donald Trump is trying to take away DEI. Now, the reason why I'm asking that because you have been outstanding people trying to watch out for the community the best you can and stuff like that. But can I ask you a question? If if they mess with DEI, how would it affect your business? How do you feel about it?
That's an interesting question. So appreciate your call, and then we will take up that question here. So thank you so much for calling. Um, so if I'm understanding correctly, that's a Department of, is it Equity and Inclusion? It has to do with um, having I don't want to say minority set asides, but having certain governmental standards to make sure that there is an inclusion for minority people in different government positions and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can tell you with respect to my particular business, referring to my law practice, I'm going to get skewered for this, but I don't think it's going to affect my particular practice one way or the other. And I say that because I spent a lot of years with my law firm applying for minority business certifications, women owned business certifications, all of these things that I spent a lot of time and a significant amount of money in having my business certified. As a, you hate even using some of this language because some of it was a disadvantaged business enterprise. I don't like thinking of myself as being disadvantaged. I don't even like that
Right.
word. I'm not even sure I feel about the minority business enterprise word. Women owned business enterprise, well, okay, right? I mean, that's true of me. But even with those certifications, and I had a whole list of them, I was not able to necessarily obtain any government any advantage in the field for driving governmental contracts or anything like that to my law firm, with the exception of a real small one from Milwaukee County that
Mm-hmm.
I had for a few years. But it, in my personal experience, that has not been something that has been affecting me. So my thought on all of this is, and it's funny because I was talking with somebody off the record about this morning, even before coming in. Um, I can see where this can hurt a lot of people, right? And I care about us as a people, Black people, people of color,
Yes.
Black people in particular, though, because we've done the most for this country. This country has taken the most from us, and we have not received reparations, and we have not received our just due. But I also notice that um, if you study history, and this is where my friend Tyrone comes in hand, because we've talked about this so many times on the show. You go back 100 years or so, and you look at how Black Wall Street was built,
Mm-hmm.
and how we were an independent, self-sufficient society
Yes.
inside of the larger society. When we couldn't go and patronize white-owned businesses, then we spent our dollars with our own businesses and our own community,
Mm-hmm.
and had to be more self-reliant in that effect in order to build us up. Um, and maybe that's what we're going to have to do now, because Donald Trump has signed his executive orders and he's taken
Yes.
away funding and he's cut people's jobs and he's done all these things that right now we can't do anything about.
Mhm.
So maybe the thing to do about that is to pour into our own community with our own dollars and build ourselves up, because that's all
Absolutely.
we can do.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was gonna say it could be a blessing in disguise.
Exactly.
Sometimes we look at one door closing and being like, "Man, I can't do this," but by that happening, that can be a mega door that's opening for so many people like yourself and
Yes.
me and Carvey and you,
Yes.
people that's interested in starting their own and building their own legacy, because then you can employ others.
Right.
So then you won't have to worry about the whole DEI sector because you're in charge.
Well
Right.
said.
And if
Yes.
we can't control that right now, let's focus on what we can control. And I know, like I listen to Dr. Boyce Watkins regularly, so maybe some of my thoughts might seem a little radical to people, but I really see some truth in the things that he says. And when we talk about, for instance, the NBA was started at some point with whatever small amount of money. The Chicago Bears were worth $100 at one point, but now look at all. Now, see, I'm mixing up my NBA and I'm talking about the Bears. Just forgive me. All right, I know the NBA and then I know the NFL and all of that, but look at who drives the talent in
Yes.
those organizations.
Mhm.
It's the black men that drive the talent in the NBA. Shouldn't we have our own NBA? Shouldn't our billionaires get together and get something started? Or not even our billionaires, whomever,
Yes.
the case might be. Get together and get something started that it's our talent, but they're getting rich off of it.
Yeah,
Right.
We're
it's
not.
funny that you say that because Ice Cube started the Big Three, and he had pushback from the NBA. The NBA didn't want him to start it, but this was the entity that he was given black men that wasn't done playing, that the NBA forced out an opportunity to make money and live.
Mm.
Right.
So he started the Big Three, and there was this whole pushback because he was trying to get TV sponsorship and all this other stuff. But that's an example of somebody taking it into their own hands and creating a narrative.
Yeah,
Yes.
because Ice Cube he's one of the real ones.
Yeah.
He's one of, and of course they would push back because he would be able to pull all the talent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then who's going to want to watch it? And it's not good, but that's the sort of thing that we need to harness the power of our talent and make money off of our own stuff. So yeah, I do know that the caller's still holding, but I do want to give Latanza a chance to comment, because I think the question was posed to her and I kind of jumped in. But if there was anything that you wanted to say with respect to this, and then caller, we'll get right to you.
Sure, sure. Well said. I agree with what both of you said. Great, solid points. But yeah, it's time for us to make something of our own. I'm a black accountant, so utilize your resources, within your community now more than ever.
Right. So caller, thank you so much for being patient and holding. Please go ahead with your question. Caller, thank you for holding. Please go ahead. Okay, maybe I lost you. Caller, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can hear you. Please, thank you for
I want to
holding.
I want to thank you, and I want to appreciate you for your honesty when it comes down to this diverse equity deal. I understand that on its face value, that it's something that we all need to look at, especially in the black community. But when you've been successful, and it's not going to hurt either one of us. See, there's a group of people that are pushing that to get their diversity and their equity notarized. You know what I mean?
Right.
And set stiff in law. And I'm not going for the okie doke. The same way with people that are running around saying now we're going to be set back if we were Africans and we were born in this country and the birthright citizenship. No, because if you go back to Dred Scott and you realize something, that it was for black slaves and descendants of slaves that were born in this country is free. Not people just walking into this joint. Not people that just decide to put on a suit and a dress and say that they are what they are not. Listen, this is serious business, but I appreciate your honesty. And guess what? You're right. When you put yourself down as being a person of of not to have anything, a degenerate actually, then people look at you that way and they just look right over you. That's why these people that are coming into this place look down on us because we steady beating the drum. But listen, I just want to call in and appreciate you. And I understand the woman's thing, the woman's movement. And I think more women, especially black women, could benefit from that particular part of the of that particular civil rights era, a civil rights period. I think they could benefit more if they really knew how powerful it was. But I thank you again for what you just did. Appreciate you. Bye.
Thank you, and I thank you too, and I appreciate too, and to the point that you just made. That's part of the reason why when I was talking, I corrected myself because I used the phrase "people of color," but I had to take that back because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Black people. I'm talking about the people who were enslaved for hundreds of years that have, not been compensated by this government and will probably never will be in my lifetime. But in the meantime, what we need to do is hunker down and take all of the however many multi millions, if not billions of dollars of earnings that we have, or even more than that, as Black people in this country. That again, I'm getting on my soapbox, but I like to shop too, right, ladies, like everybody else. But we need to get serious about taking our wealth that we work so hard for and use it towards investing in our businesses and our community and investing in ourselves. That's the power that we have. We can worry about the power that we don't have based on, Donald Trump's stroke of his pen, but let's focus on what we do have and what we can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it looks like we okay, maybe not. All right. I thought I saw a call coming. Okay, so we do have. Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller, for holding. Please go ahead.
This is the Reverend
The
Dr. Andrew Ward,
doctor.
Dr.
and
Ward.
I have a point to pick with you. I called in earlier and I said I want to meet up with y'all heavyweight, and that hasn't been arranged yet.
Right.
Another one thing I need to say, and everybody needs to know, they talk about how the rich people are ripping off the black people. They're ripping off everybody that can be ripped. If you got somebody they coming at you, and they throw this dumb thing to the poor white people that they better than us, and the only problem they have is jealousy of the ones that make it. I had an idea for Columbia Savings and Loan. You telling people to come in and save some money. People don't have any money to save.
Mhm.
What they need to do, the people who own homes already should move their mortgage over to Columbia Savings and Loan with the better terms and everything. And then they should get some. They need to learn some financial literacy, and they need to understand. And your accountant needs to do this for me. Print out an amortization schedule for 15 years and 30 years, and make the comparison. At Educators Credit Union, when you make a mortgage payment, they take the interest, and the rest goes on the principal. If that formula was at Columbia Savings Loan, they would be competitive as I don't know what. And y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Dr. Ward. I appreciate you calling. So I'm going to ask you, Dr. Ward, if you could give us a call, because I do recall that you called in when President Jones was on the show. Give us a call at 414-374-0486 so that we can set up some time to talk about the things that you've mentioned. So, all right. So I'm being cued with the music. It looks like we need to take a break. We will be back with more from Ms. Latanza Parnell, the owner of Parnell Accounting Solutions, LLC.
Nick Avani's is the only place you need to
Well, I am delighted that we have Ms. Latanza Parnell of Parnell Accounting Solutions in the studio with us this morning, and it's a treat having her here. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Will you please give your contact information again for the audience?
Sure. So my website is Parnell Accounting Solutions LLC.com. You can go on there to schedule an introductory call. No pressure, no judgment. It's just a conversation, 15 minutes. Or you can give me a call. My telephone direct line is 262-264-8944.
Thank you so much for that, Latanza. Now, talk a little bit more about the types of services that you offer through your accounting firm.
Sure. So, from an individual standpoint, I offer tax preparation. So, we're in tax season officially as of Monday. Tax filing opens for submission to the IRS. So, I offer that tax preparation for individuals. From a business standpoint, I provide bookkeeping services because that's the most basic form. You have to start there before you can talk about anything else. I provide accounting services, tax planning, tax preparation. For the most part, all money management outside of investments. I don't do anything with investments.
Okay. So are there particular types of businesses that you do bookkeeping for, or is it any business that needs bookkeeping?
Honestly, it's about the mindset. I don't turn anyone away who values having an accountant. Um, I target service-based businesses because they tend to have a larger profit. So there's more things that need to be strategically planned to keep more of that money in their pockets. So service-based businesses, meaning those without products. But again, I take anyone who has the mindset that they want to collaborate. I have transparent processes because I'm dealing with money. I want to have your trust. I need to have honesty across the board and communication. That's a big one.
So, what if I am a small business owner and I'm just getting started and I learned that, hey, I should maybe use QuickBooks to get me going? Maybe someone told me that, or I Googled it and saw it somewhere.
Mhm.
Then can I call you and say, hey, Ms. Parnell, will you help me set up my QuickBooks? Do you perform those types of services?
Absolutely. QuickBooks is my software of choice. I use their cloud-based software because it gives me the ability to have access as well as my client. We both have a login. You can go in and see what I'm doing in real time. Again, it creates that transparency that is very important to me. So to answer your question, yes, you can call me with QuickBooks.
Yeah, and so I was, you know how you say, "Oh, I'm asking for a friend." I was asking for a friend, but that's really me.
I'm here.
So
whenever you're ready.
So yeah, because I mentioned to you that with my law firm over the years that I used what was called PC Law,
Okay.
and it had case management. It was a case management platform, but it also was for the accounting functions and bookkeeping and all of that. And I used that for years and years. But it first of all, it's not cloud based for one thing, so
Okay.
that there was a limitation by definition. But when I switched over and I started using what's called Clio, which is cloud based case management program for law firms. But I learned that there is it talks to QuickBooks. I have to
Okay.
use it I have to say it plain in my own way of saying it.
Yeah.
That it QuickBooks syncs. There's a cloud version of QuickBooks that syncs with Clio that I think is specific for law firms that I think would be an advantage, for my practice to use that. So I'll be calling you.
I hope so. I am accepting new clients. So
yeah,
please.
yeah, and I think we should underscore the fact that it is tax season,
Yes.
people. So that's time, and so you're very fortunate if you can grab this young lady and get services provided by her at this time because tax season is among us. So
Yes.
that's another big one. So Latanza, give your contact information one more time before we go.
Sure. So my website is Parnell Accounting Solutions LLC.com and my telephone number is 262-264-8944.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. I would love to have you back because Dr. Ward mentioned talking about financial literacy. I attempted that one time and I was surprised at the reaction from some of the listeners, but that won't stop me from talking about it again because I know how important that is. But thank you everyone for joining us this week, and we'll be back next week with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you again, Latanza, for coming.
Serving the black community for nearly 60 years.
This is the most important.
This is Milwaukee's Voice
And a sound blueprint.